Hi, folks. This week we move on to the issue of political parties in the presidency. As usual, there's a few articles uploaded, a few links to different books, but one of the places that we'll be spending a bit of time browsing is here on the UCSB American Presidency Project website. And what I've uploaded here, or the link I've uploaded here, is to the party platforms which go all the way back to, you can go back to the Martin Van Buren platform of 1840. And what you can do here is you can look at the most recent presidential election. This is the Democratic Party platform. It totals 26,000 words. The Republican Party platform totals 35,000 words. You can see that the structure is slightly different. They have this bullet point introduction before they get into the platform. It's kind of interesting to look at these documents. If we go back to let's just say this FDR's election here, that's it, 1,000 odd words. But still strong rhetoric. They've ruined our foreign trade, destroyed the values of our commodities and products, crippled our banking system, robbed millions of our people of their life savings, and thrown millions more out of work. And who's the Democratic Party referring to? Those who are responsible for these policies. So very strong rhetoric there, nonetheless, even though they managed to put that together in 1,500 words. Hoover, who contested the election, actually has 3 times as long. So you can browse through these. We'll be asking some questions about this on the discussion forum. You can look at some of the third-party candidates that appear in terms of those who got electoral votes. So basically, if they won, George Wallace took 45 electoral votes in 1968. So the American Independent Party gets their platform here. You can see Wallace talking about the domestic plight, cities in decay and turmoil, its local schools and other institutions stand stripped of their rightful authority. So a lot of these policy platforms, it's interesting to look at the things people were saying at different times and see, how if you got up on stage running for president, in 3 years' time, and you said this, would it still apply? And I think probably in many cases it would. Now you can also look at some election documents on this menu bar here. You can look at the 2016 presidential election documents. You can look at the Hillary Clinton documents, the campaign speeches, the statements, the press releases. You can look at all the other candidates, and you also have their logos here. It'll be interesting to see how many of you remember all the people that ran for the Republican nomination. There were a lot, and they all got their logos made up, and same is true of the relatively short list of people who ran for the Democratic nomination. But if we go back to, say, 2004, they just have the John Kerry documents there. 2008, there's a little bit more. Again, kind of an array of candidates. Some of these people, you may be familiar with. Rudy Giuliani is a reasonably famous politician at the local level in New York, but he did run for president. He has been thereabouts, and he has been fairly active in recent months, supporting Donald Trump. You can look at convention speeches here, which kind of goes back to the stuff we've been talking about on rhetoric. And you can look at debates. Obviously, part of the election process is the debate. And the first presidential debates were, Kennedy-Nixon in 1960. So, a decent amount of information is available to you here. And this is all under this elections tab. The list of tabs here that just go under Nixon, Reagan, Ford, Clinton. And you can look at these electoral maps that they've made going all the way back to 1789. You can kind of see the patterns emerging in American politics. You can see the swing states that we have. the way that they change color, the way that the color of those swing states reflects this blue bar. So Florida, for example, a good example, when it's blue, exception of 92, when it's red, you can see the presidency also tends to be red, i.e. Republican. So there's a lot to see on this site, but there's a couple of other things just to point out real quick. And one here is this this article here by Cohen et al., Party versus Faction in a Reformed Presidential Nomination System. And what they're arguing here is, they're kind of making a lot of points about the role of outsider candidates. One of the things that we saw during the 2016 election was, on one hand, complete outsider in the form of Donald Trump, and here, the ultimate regular, Hillary Clinton. So when you look at their respective roles, Hillary Clinton had been a Democratic First Lady, she had been a Democratic Senator, she'd been a Secretary of State for a Democratic President, and then she ran. And that's kind of the regular candidates, like they mention here, Clinton, Dole, and Gore. Whereas in other examples, Jimmy Carter would have been something of an outsider, although he was the governor of Georgia. And basically they're trying to track some of the trends in this. So it's quite an interesting article to look at. It would hopefully kind of give you a little bit more information about patterns that have emerged in presidential elections, and hopefully will give you some fuel for the conversations that we will continue to have on the discussion forum.